Section 1. The Quiet Architect. An Introduction to Irving Grousbeck. There is a certain kind of story we tell about empire builders. It often involves grand, sweeping gestures, a larger-than-life personality, a relentless, almost brutal pursuit of dominance. We imagine a figure who bursts onto the scene, disrupting everything in their path. But what if the path to building an empire is quieter? Less about a single explosive moment, more about a series of small, deliberate, intelligent choices made over decades. This is the story of Irving Grousbeck. His name might not be widely recognized, but the empire he constructed, businesses, wealth, profound educational influence. The journey is not a straight line from A to B, a meandering, thoughtful progression from a young man fascinated by problems to a business leader who reshaped industries. Then, in a remarkable third act, a celebrated professor teaching a new generation. Section 2. The Foundation of an Empire. Early Career and Search Theory. Every great journey has a starting point, a moment of intellectual conception. For Irving Grousbeck, that moment wasn't in a boardroom, it was in the quiet halls of academia, and the practical realities of his early career. After earning his MBA from Harvard and a PhD from Stanford, Grousbeck did not immediately set out to conquer the world. He worked in various industry roles, watching the machinery of business from the inside. He learned how decisions were made, how capital flowed, and how opportunities were missed when the right people weren't positioned to see them. He studied the system, gathering data on corporate behavior and market inefficiencies. This period of observation was crucial. He began to formulate the ideas that would define his legacy. He saw a fundamental market disconnect. On one side, talented, ambitious, newly minted MBA graduates eager to run a business but lacking capital and opportunity. On the other side, small to medium-sized businesses, profitable firms, stable companies, whose aging owners were seeking an exit, but with no clear successor. These were good companies, the bedrock of the economy, but too small for traditional private equity, and too established for venture capital. They existed in a forgotten middle. Section 3. From Theory to Practice. The Birth of Continental Cable Vision. Having conceived of the search fund model, Irving Grousbeck was not content to let it remain a theoretical exercise. The true test of an idea, after all, is in its execution. In 1963, alongside his classmate H. Amos Bud Hostetter Jr., Grousbeck put his own theory into practice. They set out not with a grand vision to revolutionize media, but with a practical goal, to find a solid, existing business to acquire and grow. They raised a small amount of capital from friends and family, and the search began. They were the original searchers, writing the playbook as they went along. Their journey led them to the nascent, fragmented, decidedly unglamorous industry of community antenna television, or KTV. At the time, cable television was a far cry from the media powerhouse it would become. It was a utility, a way to deliver clear broadcast signals to homes in rural or geographically obstructed areas that couldn't receive them over the air. It was a business of poles, wires, franchise agreements. It was gritty, capital-intensive, involved, negotiating with countless small-town governments. Many saw it as a low-growth, low-margin affair. But Grousbeck and Hostetter saw something different. They saw a subscription-based model, recurring revenue, a sticky customer base, potential for immense scale if they could consolidate the fragmented landscape. They found their target, and Continental Cable Vision was born. The early days were a masterclass in scrappy, hands-on management. Grousbeck wasn't just a strategist, he was an operator. He and Hostetter were involved in every aspect of the business, from bidding for local franchises in small New England towns to overseeing the physical installation of the cable lines. They understood that building this empire would not happen overnight. It would be built one town, one subscriber, one carefully negotiated contract at a time. This patient, methodical approach was a hallmark of Grousbeck's philosophy. He eschewed the growth-at-all-costs mentality, focusing instead on steady, profitable expansion that did not overextend the company's financial resources. Their strategy was predicated on a deep understanding of the numbers and a long-term perspective. They knew that each new franchise was like an annuity, a stream of predictable future cash flows. The key was to acquire these franchises at a reasonable price and operate them efficiently. They reinvested their profits back into the business, funding the acquisition of more and more territories. They built a reputation for reliability and service. Continental Cable Vision did not become a giant by accident. Its ascent was the result of a deliberate scaling strategy. It hinged on two core principles: the power of partnerships, the virtue of patience. They couldn't build it alone. They needed allies in finance. They needed allies on the ground. Their relationship with local governments was collaborative. They positioned themselves as partners in community development, promising to bring a valuable service to residents. This approach helped them win franchise after franchise, creating a patchwork of service areas that slowly connected into a larger, more valuable network. Inside the company, the partnership between Grousbeck, strategist and financial architect, and Hofstadter, the operational and engineering guru. Their complementary skills created powerful synergy. They were early pioneers in decentralized management. They empowered local managers and regional managers to make decisions. They trusted the people closest to customers and local markets. For 33 years, Irving Grousbeck and Bud Hofstadter built Continental Cable Vision with methodical precision. They weathered technological shifts, regulatory battles, economic downturns, all while quietly assembling one of the largest and most respected cable companies in the United States. Their journey was a marathon, not a sprint. Every marathon has a finish line. By the mid-1990s, the telecommunications landscape was undergoing a seismic shift. The promise of the internet, digital television, telephone services over cable lines, was transforming the industry from a utility into a high-tech growth sector. In 1996, they made the monumental decision to sell the company they had built from scratch. The buyer was US West, and the price was a staggering $11.7 billion. For Grousbeck and his early investors, it was the culmination of a lifetime's work. The immense wealth did not become an endpoint. It became fuel. In 2002, a consortium led by his son purchased the Boston Celtics. Irving became a co-owner. Instead of retreating, he fully embraced his identity as an educator. He returned to his alma mater, the Stanford Graduate School of Business, not as a guest or dignitary, but as a full-time member of the faculty. He took on the role of teacher with the same seriousness he applied to building Continental Cable Vision, multiplying his influence exponentially. At Stanford, he co-taught the now legendary course, Entrepreneurship and Venture Capital, and became the world's leading academic authority on the search fund model. The classroom became his new company. His students were his new product. He codified his experience into a replicable system, case studies and frameworks. He mentored hundreds of aspiring entrepreneurs. He was, in effect, open-sourcing his own success, a strategic reinvestment in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. He scaled his impact across industries and geographies. His financial advice became legendary for its simplicity and power. Know your numbers, maintain a cash buffer, invest in people, and test ideas small before betting the farm. Be wary of fads. Focus on fundamentals, cash flow, serving customers, building durable value. His classroom at Stanford became the new headquarters of his empire, an empire of ideas. From cable to classrooms to championship banners, he built value patiently and wisely. To distill the career of Irving Grousbeck into a few simple lessons is to risk trivializing a lifetime of complex decision-making. Yet, his path is so clear, so logical, that the core principles shine through. First, solve a real, unglamorous problem. He identified talented managers without companies and companies without succession, then engineered a solution. The search fund and the cable industry were choices rooted in pragmatism. Second, embrace patience and compounding. It was a 33-year grind. Reinvest profits, manage debt prudently, let recurring revenue compound. Third, evolve. Operator to investor to educator. Treat the sale not as an end, but as a beginning. Finally, the ultimate measure is what you disseminate. By teaching, he ensured his insights would not die with him. With clear thinking, careful planning, and a generous spirit, one person can build a lasting empire. That is a lesson worth learning.